Our speaker today is an amazing woman and a mom and a practitioner. And I was just sharing with her that one of the things I love the best about our relationship is that I can always just walk up to her or call her on the phone and tell her that I love her, and she doesn't get all weirded out. So that's very comforting. And she is amazing, and if you haven't heard her before, you'll hear how amazing she is in just a moment. Please welcome Dianne.
Happy Mother's Day. She's biased, so she says wonderful things. But they're all true, so it's okay. Happy Mother's Day to you and all of you, to fathers who act as mothers, which is really important, and also to those whose mothers are no longer with us. We wish you blessings, knowing that your mother is here, though not physically present, but her heart and soul remains with you. And so I just wanted to say that. I think it's really important that we understand that the mother energy is not about just being a physical mother, it's about mothering in general. And so there are many forms in which the mother energy shows up in our lives, and it's really important to acknowledge that. I've had many mothers in my lifetime. My grandmother was a mother. I had aunts that mothered me. I've had friends that have mothered me through certain parts of my journey. So mothering is about more than just the birthing process of bringing a child into the world, although that is a very big deal and a very big process in itself. I honor all mothers. And so as we go out today, I was running today and a little boy stopped me and said, hi, happy Mother's Day. And I was like, oh, thanks. You know, he was walking his dog and had a little apron on, so I think he was making breakfast for his mom too. But it was really kind of sweet to be running this morning and get greetings along the way. And so I encourage everyone to kind of drop a greeting when you see to a total stranger and bless them with the greeting of Happy Mother's Day. Okay, so my talk today is about living life from the center of your soul. And what does that mean? You know, and I was really, you know, all week I've sort of been thinking about it. It's come up in my meditation. What is the center of my soul? And then this morning I woke up and sat in meditation for about a half an hour and really allowed myself to engage in that process, releasing and opening myself to having beautiful things, the energy of the divine come through for me to share here what is important to share here. And the first question, of course, is, well, what does it mean to live from the center of your soul? And what is that? And where is that place? You know, and so it's important, I think, for all of us to think about how we were born and how we came into the world. We were perfect, amazing, incredible beings before we entered the world in this body. So each one of us was already perfect. There was nothing that was missing. There was nothing that was wrong. There was nothing that was limited. Your soul, perfect, magnificent, and whole. Coming into the world through this body, whatever body you have, male, female, transgender, it doesn't matter. Whatever your body is just the vehicle that houses your soul. It's the thing that allows you to be present in the world and show up in life and deliver your gifts, whatever those beautiful gifts are. So it was really important for me to kind of stop and think about, well, what does it mean to be perfect? Because each person has their own cellular DNA, right? That's a word, cellular. You have your cellular DNA. Your DNA for your soul is perfectly divine for you. You have come with these perfect design gifts and talents and characteristics that make up who you are. It's not your body. It's not where you were born. It's not how you grew up, where you got your education. It's none of those things. Those things come along the way and you pick them up along the way, but the essence of who you are never changes. So if you came into the world loving and artistic and full of energy, that person is always who you are. It doesn't matter how you try to mask it. It doesn't matter what happens along the way. You are still in the very core of your being who you were when you were born into the world. So how do we get back there? And how do we live from that place? And what's the point of living from that place if we live in a world that has all these other things that we have to A, guard ourselves around, B, navigate? try to just get through, right? We have to live with them, and this is just the reality of the world, right? Because that's what we all tell ourselves. And that's the general consciousness of the human being, is this is the world, and we have to live in it, which is true, it is our world. We do have to live in it. And we get to create it based on what is important to us and our values, and what it is that matters to our very core. And when we do that, that's when we're living from the core of our souls, right? We're living from the very center of who we are. So if it is important to you, and has always been important to you, to be kind and loving and nice, you can still live from that place. You don't have to put on all your defense mechanisms and put on all the things that you developed along the way, right? Because that's what happens. We're born, and then people start to tell us how to be in the world. And a lot of that is valid. Like, don't run out in traffic is a really important thing to know. Because something can happen to the physical body if you run out in front of a moving car. So that's really important to know. It's also important to know how to navigate certain social structures and certain ways of being. When you're in a certain part of community, if you're sitting in a classroom, there's a particular way that you behave. If you're a congregant, there's a particular way that you behave for that congregation. When you're in the office, there's a particular culture to the office. And that's important to know when you're engaging in the structure of being somewhere. But you don't lose yourself. You don't lose your soul. You're still the same person in the core of who you are. So the question is, how do I live from that place while still being in the world? How do I live from a place of joy and harmony and peace and love and creativity, or whatever it is that my DNA is made up of? How do I do that? So we do certain things in this community, in many spiritual communities. We do certain things to maintain a connection to our center. We pray. We pray affirmatively, right? We pray believing we've already received. So it's an affirmative prayer, a statement, a declaration about how your life is. That's what Jesus the Christ said. That's what many teachers, spiritual teachers say. You pray in an affirmative manner. So when you pray in an affirmative manner, you move away from beseeching and begging. You move away from lack. You move away from limitation. You move away from the idea that there isn't enough. So you start to engage with that aspect of yourself. You meditate. You sit in silence with yourself and just allow the silence to be a part of who you are. I was laughing the other day because I noticed, I don't know if some of you saw in the news, Congress is meditating now. They have a congressman that's facilitating meditation. And I think it is so cool, right? 20 years ago. And I was like, we held a space for that in our church. Because, you know, the deal is, meditation is such an important way of being. However, in the world, in the general world, there's still people that scoff at it and think, oh, that's, you know, stupid, and why do you sit and nothing happens? Because you haven't practiced. You haven't sat with it. So when I heard that they're meditating in Congress, daily meditation, I thought, wow, that's so exciting, because what they're learning is how to reconnect with their inner selves and to leave the world of appearances and the world that we've created that says life is a zero-sum game and there's not enough to go around, and lack, limit. We can only be good over here, but we have to drop bombs over there, and we can't afford to feed the hungry, but we can afford to, you know, man the military. All those things, right, are not that's a part of the effect of the world. That's not a part of the true core of who we are. So as Congress meditates, it'll catch on. It's going to expand out into what is mainstream, right? So what is happening is our way of being in the world is shifting back to a core essence of who and what we are. That's why you have all the Oprah Winfreys and all these other people espousing meditation in general. It's in the general population now. It's not seen 20 years ago. It was like kind of weird and loopy that y'all were sitting around meditating, right? And now it's become a mainstay. So in our community, part of what we do and in our practices to get to the core of ourselves is we meditate. They're doing yoga in the courthouse in Montgomery County twice a week, where they're doing yoga, which is another spiritual practice that deals with the body temple, that deals with honoring the core and helps you to center back into your core, right? So we're having this explosion of spiritual practices that have nothing to do with religion, that have nothing to do with anything but getting to the core of your own true self. So we go back to that. What is my DNA? How do I discover what is my DNA? And this is important for me in any talk, in any teaching. Tell me what to do, right? Tell me how to do this, because you stand up there and you spot out these great practices. Well, what does that look like? What does it feel like to be in affirmative prayer? It is, what it looks like is a set of practices that we do spiritually. We declare, absolutely, and put our attention on the fact that God is really all there is, that everything is created out of the essence and the substance of the divine, because that's all that was there before. And we're all really clear that we're sourced by the presence, that it is everywhere, there is nowhere where it's not, because it's not an absence, it's a presence, and so it's always there. So we know this, and we know that it is the thing that sources us, it fuels us, it sources the blades of grass, it sources everything, including us. It is the breath that we're breathing. It is what is breathing us. And when we center on that energy, we start to feel the reality of, wow, I'm amazing. Who I am is amazing. Wow. We center in on that, and then we start to do things, recognizing part of our prayer practice, what it feels like when you recognize that you are one with the presence, that there's no part of your being that's outside of the presence of the divine. When you feel that, you can declare the truth about your life. You can start to recognize that all your needs are met, that you really are living from the overflow of all that is, because you have a place to live, food to eat, all your basics are taken care of. So what are you doing in the rest of your life? You're living from the overflow. And then what we know is that when we place our attention on that truth, and we stand in gratitude for that, and we release that energy into our lives, into the law, into the presence of God, that is what is increased in our lives. It's like, gardening. I told you guys, I think a couple of weeks ago, about my lovely poinsettia that I'm paying attention to, and it's growing because my attention is on it, right? So that which I put my attention on is what grows in my life. So if I am putting my attention on the core of my being, on the truth that I know, which is that when I was born, everything was already done. Everything was already taken care of. So I get to show up in the world. When I do that, I know that that's what's going to expand in my world. That's what's going to grow. So when I know my needs are met, when I know I'm living from the overflow, when I'm living in that awareness, that feeling of affirmative prayer is what keeps me aligned with the presence. When I do something else, of course, you know what happens, right? I start freaking out about what I don't have and what's not there, and how am I going to pay the bill, and how's the rent going to be paid, and I don't know how we're going to eat, and that's what starts to magnify. So you stay focused, right? You feel the difference in the energy of, I don't have, there's not enough, I can't pay the bills, not enough money coming in, and knowing, wait, everything that I've ever needed has always been there. And staying in that place, there's a feeling tone with prayer that it's important to align with and stand in the knowing of that prayer. Then you want to try meditation, because that's another practice that keeps you aligned with the soul and keeps you aligned with that which created you. So it's about practicing just being still. One of the things that I do in my practice is I do not turn the television on when I get up. I do not look on my phone and get on Facebook. I do not play words with friends. I used to. I don't do those things. Before I start to allow the external things to attack me and activate whatever it is that they activate in my awareness, I start with silence. And I give thanks. I bless the body, and I give thanks for the body that it's still housing my spirit. Because every day that I wake up, right, in the body, I should be blessing this body for carrying me and continuing to house my spirit so that I can continue to deliver whatever it is that I came to do. Because I'm here to do something. There's a value in your life. Who you are is perfect, whole, and complete. There is a reason why you are here. You are here to do something, to make a difference, to be a source of love, to be a source of strength, to be support, to be someone's parent, and beyond. All those things, you have a particular mission because you're here. And so when I bless the body temple, I do what I can to take good care of it. I make sure I exercise it. One of my fellow practitioners always says exercise is a spiritual practice. Physical movement is a spiritual practice because it's taking care of the temple that is housing your spirit, right? So I do that, and then with meditation, I just sit. And it's such a gift to be able to sit and to be able to be still in the core of your soul, so you can then set your intention for your day. And not just pop out of bed, pull on your clothes, listen to the news, and launch out into traffic. Complete, like you're gonna launch into traffic. Not only are you going into traffic with crazy people, you're going out there just as crazy, unleashing yourself on them because you're not centered. All you're focused on, you're locked and loaded, dressed and going to work. And there is no centering, there is no understanding that we are all a part of this great community. We're all on our way to somewhere, yes, but where is the centering? So I always make sure that every day I do a little bit of centering. And I started out, it was not always easy to meditate. You know, I'll just share that. It was not always easy to sit and be still and connect with my inner self. It was very weird when I started. And I did a lot of things, and I have lots of stories about when I started meditating, including the egg timer story, which I think I may have shared with some of you, is I had an egg timer because my friend that was teaching me how to meditate said, all you have to do is sit still for 1 minute. And so I turned the egg timer to 1 minute, and I sat there, and it was like, tick. It was those old ones too, because it was like 20 years ago, so it was like tick, tick, tick. And I was sitting there like this, oh my God, it's only 7 seconds. You know, because I had not mastered the ability to be alone with myself, because I had grown up in the world that had taught me all the external ways of being, but had not taught me how to just be still and be with yourself. Like, you don't have to turn on the radio, turn on continued negative news, turn on everything and go full blast. You can wake up and be with yourself and just be in the stillness. And so I sat with that. And I learned over time, over practice, like I didn't give up, although I went to quit many times, this whole meditation thing, because it was a little loopy and very granola bar, and you know what I mean? And I was like, that's just like too hippie for me. But I continued to try, because what it was that I developed a set of beliefs about the presence of God. And what I had to do is develop my practice to meet my belief. You know, a lot of times people will say things like the heart is willing but the flesh is weak, or bring the brain, bring your body and your mind will follow, and all these kinds of things. I believed something, but I didn't know how to put it into practice. I didn't know what it meant. Like, I always knew that God was within me and God was within each and every person. I always knew that when I saw you, I saw a perfect, magnificent creation of God. But it wasn't until someone gave me those words, that someone gave me the practice to see God, to practice, gave me steps to see God in people and not to see their external circumstances, but to know absolutely that this woman I am looking at is a perfect emanation of the divine. That she was created out of the substance of all that is. And when I see people from that place and engage in that place, I'm living from the core of my soul. Because if you are created from the substance of all that is, then I must honor you. And I must live my life in relation to you, honoring who and what you are. And it's really important when we go out into the world to be able to take that presence with us, especially if we work in what are difficult situations and challenging circumstances, and we are in the presence of things that sometimes appear to be something different than what we would define as an expression of God, that what we would think would be the expression of wholeness. It is really important to practice seeing each and every person as that which is created out of the very substance of God. And so that became a practice. Meditation became a practice. Prayer became a practice. Affirmations became a practice. Trusting that my life was unfolding in perfect order became a practice. Because I was raised in a world that you control your destiny. And you do particular things in particular ways. And that's just the way it is. And so it's very challenging, and it was very challenging for me to overcome or relearn how to be myself, to relearn who the core of who I am is, to really stand in the awareness that I am a heart wide open person. And that just puts me out there, you know, and it's okay. And that means that there may be things that happen that cause me to feel hurt or cause me to feel pain. But I want to tell you that I'm so much happier with my heart wide open than working to keep it guarded all the time. I am so much happier living the life that I am, living who I am, being open and willing to be friends and to listen and to talk and to be vulnerable and to share my idiosyncrasies and share things about myself that may not necessarily be considered cool. You know, to share that I'm really kind of scared about this thing, or I'm really afraid about that thing, or I'm really uncomfortable because I don't think I know this thing. To share that and to recognize that faith is courage to walk through fear. It's not you don't have faith in the absence of fear. Fear is there. It's normal to be afraid to not step out in front of a truck. That's a normal thing. When you have faith, you have courage, and you stand up in the face of that which is challenging you. And the reason why you develop that faith and that courage is because you go into the core of your own self and you live from that place. You can choose to live small. You can choose to live in your protected world. You can choose to have all your mechanisms in place, and you can choose to have all the defenses that protect you from them. You can do that, and you will be exhausted, and you will get to the end of the race, and that'll be that. Or you can choose to live right now, fully, wholly, and completely. I'm not saying launch yourself out there and run in traffic and hope the car doesn't hit you, but go out there and live with your heart wide open. Be the person that you are. If you are artistic, be artistic. Sing your song, because that's what Spirit is asking you. That's why you're here, to sing your song, to deliver your gift, to be loving, to take the risk, to expand the presence of love through you, in you, and as you. And not to play small, not to hide your light under a bushel, not to be that person that's going to dim your light so other people may not be uncomfortable. Shine it. Be yourself and give them permission to shine their own light. Because when I am all that I am, then you are free to be all that you are. And that's what we do when we live from our core. That's what we do when we live from the center of who we are. We honor ourselves. And it becomes a process of unlearning the things that were taught to you by very well-meaning people who really all they wanted to do was protect you to the best of their understanding. All they really wanted to do was protect you and walk with you to the best of their understanding. So they tried to give you some tools, and sometimes the way it was communicated to you may not necessarily be the best that is in your best service to you. So what I'm saying is, you got to take some time and really get into the quiet and stillness and ask yourselves questions. Like, am I really living the life that I desire? Is it true that I want to spend the rest of my life doing this? And if not, how do I shift that? How do I become the person who I really want to be? Not the person that the world has told me I am. Not the young daughter, not the youngest one, not the one that's the most feisty, not the one that's, you know, bad or good or perfect or anything, but just me. How do I get back to me? Am I living that life? And if I'm not, what steps do I need to take to expand and live the life that I really, truly desire? What are the things that I need to do? And then you will launch yourself into a new spiritual practice, which we call life visioning. And you will launch yourself into becoming willing and ready and receptive to be guided by the Spirit within. That will tell you this is your path. And you will know absolutely, you will feel the confidence and the truth as it unfolds in front of you. This is the life I'm supposed to live. This is the yes. And you become in tune to the direction, to the guidance, to the thing within that pulls you forward and walks with you in such safety that you can be yourself. You can absolutely be yourself, not what someone else designed or intended as the second son or the fourth son or the sixth daughter or the firstborn child or, you know, the daughter of a lawyer or the son of a doctor. You can just be Daniel. You can just be Deesh. You can just be you. And then when you're you, you get into this place where you are making a difference on the planet. And now the world is a better place because you've shown up. Not the shell of who you were, not the definition that everyone else gave to you because you were Mrs. So-and-so's daughter, but the real truth of who you are. When you get to that place, then you get to unleash your gifts. You get to give to community. You get to release that which you came to the planet to do with such joy. And there's so much freedom. There's so much freedom in being yourself and living from the truth of who you are. Not the definition, not the stories you've told yourself. Because that's the other thing. Along the way, we create stories about who we think we are, right? Because this is how I survived that thing, so therefore I must be this person. You know, one of my stories, I'll share one of my stories, was I'm the youngest one. But I was always the one that was required to take care of my older sister. So in my mind, somehow or another, I started telling myself that I was tough, that I was strong. I am strong, but I'm not all that tough. I have this like heart wide open heart that was getting pummeled every day. But because I had told myself stories about how I am in the world, because over time I was her protector. I was my big sister's protector. So I became that person. And so I had this story in my mind about who I was. And I lived my life from that place, never telling anyone that, you know what, really, I'm scared too. Because my job was to protect her when we were at school. My job was to protect her when we became young adults. I think right now my job is again to protect her in life. It's like, oh, your sister's going through this, you need to be there. And I become that person, and it's like what I realized was I had convinced myself, because of my journey, I had given myself the story that I don't need people to show up for me, that I don't need the same thing that I was giving away. You know, so we get to unlearn those stories that we tell ourselves. We get to unlearn the experiences. We get to recategorize them and requalify them and look at them for what they are. Their journeys, their experiences, their processes, but they're not who you are. It's an experience that guides you, and it helps you to look at the world and be aware of what's going on in your life. But it doesn't define you. It's not who you are. You are not that person. So when you start to align yourself with the presence, and you practice every day the prayer and the meditation, affirmations are really good too. You get to do that in such a way that you start to be connected to yourself. And you start to understand more and more of who you are, and more of why you're here. And so then you can live your life from that centering place. When you do that, then you're showing up fully, wholly, and completely, and able to give to the world that which you came to give. I wanted to close with this affirmation. I'm not sure if I have it, that I read. Actually, I wrote it down. I stole it from Michael Beckwith. And I don't know if I have it now, but it talks about the fact that you're an immutable and unchangeable presence, and that you have come to be exactly that in who you are, that there is nothing about you, no matter how you work to cover up, defend, or be different than who you are, that you're an immutable presence. You are filled with love and light and joy and harmony and beauty and magnificent gifts that are necessary for you to be on the planet. And that when you live your life from that place, when you recognize that there is somebody that needs you to play a particular role in their life, that needs you to love them in a particular way, that you are that important, that your love, your presence, your giving, your kindness will make the difference in another human being's life. When you live from that place, you live from the center of your soul, and you change the world. It's a better place because you're there. Thank you.